Hello everybody, Scott Golden here with the Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channel. Welcome to those of you who are new. Welcome back to those of you seasoned veterans of what we do around here. We've got over 1,200 audios available for your listening pleasure, old school, new school, and current day wrestling available. We go back to our WCW Saturday Night Series, June 6th, 1992, a couple of weeks out from Beach Blast. We open with Paulie dangerously kind of doing some insets alongside Jim Ross. Ross, to me, at his prime here. I know a lot of people like his WWF stuff. I don't. I liked him in 93 through about 97, but him in the Attitude Era grated on me. I love his AEW stuff now, though, but my favorite Jim Ross is the Mid-South WCW stuff. It's just even different tones in his voice and all of that. But Heyman does the majority of the inset stuff. Johnny B. Bad is here, otherwise known as Mark Marrow. He's facing Mike Thor. He's been around for less than a year at this point. Obviously, he's around for several months, or several years rather, before really finding himself completely. And without a doubt, there's some interesting things going on for him. He doesn't really get to a good place as it relates to his career. Probably, I mean, to me, Johnny B. Bad's best career stuff is ultimately in the nature of probably his WCW stuff. I know a lot of people would say his WWF stuff gave him more notoriety, but really his WCW stuff is to me better. Then we kind of see a sidestep, and anyway, he does a lot of basic brawling and all of that. And, punch, kick, basic stuff, nothing really major. Does some go-behinds, takedowns, and the like, and gets some ride time. Oddly enough, he doesn't really use the boxer thing for another year or maybe two. Of course, he's with WCW until later or early in '96. He hits a drop toe hold. At this point, I think he's turning babyface. He does by June anyway. And he'd been managed as a heel by Teddy Long for a while. Some go behind and basic stuff there. We kind of see some ultimately he ends up hitting the punch and the sunset flip and gets the victory. Does the bad blaster thing as well. Not particularly a match to write home about, certainly being a squash match. We move on to Nikita Kolov in a squash of his own. Kolov coming back in February of this year as a babyface, which is interesting because most people recognize him as a heel. Kolov and Diamond Dallas Page is an interesting thing here. Actually, it ended up being a tag match, Kolov and Steamboat against Page and what ends up being Ricky Morton. Koloff doing the power deal for a bit, and ultimately, it's there, and we've kind of seen, obviously the evolution of Dallas Page from 92 to 96. Page takes a few shots and goes to town on Koloff. Koloff does some very basic stuff, ducks a clothesline, comes back with a shoulder tackle. Steamboat, of course, is still embroiled in the feud with the Dangerous Alliance. Koloff's a guy I wish had hung around longer, but he had, I believe, a hernia or some other shoulder-related injury, either stomach or shoulder. I know he had an injury in 1993, which took him out of the business. He goes on to become an evangelist and finds, I guess, happiness. Ricky Steamboat tags in, comes in, does the series of arm drags, tags off as it relates, and then does the deeper arm drags ultimately, and kind of gets a meaningful run, and um, you know, kind of snaps him over, gets it there, and ultimately tries to send him into the buckle. Blocks off, does Page sends Steamboat into the buckle, gets all he can out of it, and a clothesline along the way there. Then we kind of see him drive his opponent down into the mat a little bit. And Steamboat manages to kind of choke him out, choke him off, and all of that. And then, a pull down and whatever comes forward there. And some Irish whips. I believe it's Ricky Morton that's in there. Still doing a heel bit. He doesn't leave for a couple more months yet. Spinning neck breaker. Steamboat tries to make his way over to the corner, and ultimately, Paulie dangerously comes in. Medusa. Obviously, it is Kolov and Steamboat that get the victory here. Medusa comes in. She's hyping the upcoming bikini contest with Missy Hyatt, obviously. She says that she is by far the prettiest woman there. Then we go to another match, this time Super Invader, otherwise known as Hercules Hernandez, in a mask, and I don't know why they turned him into a complete goofball. Jason Knight of ECW Jason fame is the opponent. Punch, kick, brawl by the Super Invader. Invader finally hits a couple of power moves. Basically, he is treated like a pretty hard guy there, and chops some things off and manages to gets the power bomb and the victory in the meantime. We go to a beach blast kind of control center. Cactus Jack basically says he's tired of Sting not respecting him, wants Sting to step up. Of course, he and Sting go into beach blast. My favorite Cactus Jack match of all time is the beach blast match with Sting. I just think that's where Cactus was at his best. Sting says that this is Cactus's house, but that he's not willing to give up the championship yet. Then we go back to Eric Bischoff hyping the pay-per-view in what amounts to be about 2 weeks. Natural Dustin Rhodes is up next. Rhodes manages to, be still trying to find his way. He doesn't really find his way for another couple of years. Some say he didn't find his way till the Goldust thing. Looking back at him, though, one of my favorite Dustin Rhodes matches is his match with Steve Austin at Starrcade 93. Would love to cover that someday. Probably will. Sooner rather than later. Rip Rogers, who is the trainer for Ohio Valley Wrestling, is his opponent here today. And Rhodes is only about 3 or 4 years into his career at this point, 1992. Bill Alfonso, ECW fame, is the referee for this contest. They trade and do some very basic stuff, and could have hit on the arm bar and all of that, and ultimately kind of tags along there. Deep hip toss by Rhodes. Rhodes manages to hit a clothesline, and then manages to kind of go out into the ether, back on the floor, as Rogers tries to do what he can, and ultimately kind of gets things spun around there. And then a series of Irish whips and, kind of big back body drop, and ultimately you get the impression from Rhodes that he is certainly trying to keep things as basic as he can. Takes him down with an armbar, does some really basic moves, but at the same time continues to hit things kind of a kickoff and an Irish whip, and then back around and all of that. Leapfrogs by Rogers, and then a bulldog by Rhodes gets the victory for him, and ultimately Dustin Rhodes goes on to victory. They hype the NWA Tag Team Championship tournament. I don't quite know why they stayed in the NWA at this point. U.S. Tag Team Champions are Garvin and Hayes, who are unhappy as the free birds that they are not given the level of respect they believe they should be. It's Lance Russell for his very short run, less than a year in WCW at this point. Of course, his work in Memphis. Eventually, we're going to do the whole Memphis series, which will be phenomenal. I love Memphis wrestling, just haven't gotten there yet. Trying to watch stuff that I haven't watched in a long time, and I have watched some Memphis more recently. Barry Windham and Arn Anderson there, and ultimately, they are feuding over the television title. They basically go about 25, 28 minutes. Anderson bails to the outside. Anderson and Windham, two of my favorite all-time guys. This is how you wrestle. Anderson slows the match down, takes him to the floor, and kind of bails out. Windham, still a babyface here, hasn't turned. He turns in about September, October, November, somewhere in that time frame. Definitely turns before Starrcade 92 is here. And then they square off. This match, I believe, 2 out of 3 falls. And obviously the story told is the power of Windham and the technical acumen of Anderson. They battle over head scissors for several minutes. Short knee by Anderson into the midsection. Anderson then manages to get some things going, and hard cinch up and all of that. And, tie down, and it's there. Needless to say, the roll onto the shoulders by Windham is pretty intense, and it's kind of working a very basic arm hold, but they work the arm for several minutes back and forth. Anderson and Windham do a lot of switching. Of course, the feud with the Anderson tandem and the Dangerous Alliance and Barry Windham goes back probably into the summer of 1991 or thereabouts, maybe the fall of 91, but they've been feuding for several months by this point, including over the television championship. Of course, Steve Austin having won it in 91. Then Anderson goes to the leg, goes to work on the leg, kind of trying to Charlie horse the hamstring and the knee and all of that. Windham comes back, and he's limping. I know it's a really simple thing, but seeing a guy limp when his leg has been worked makes a lot of sense to my brain. And so it'd be wonderful if we saw more of that. Anyway, some power moves by Anderson, and ultimately then he takes him back down, single leg, kicking on the knee, goes right at him, and again, there we go, and ultimately some major tackles, and things go that way. Big vertical suplex along the way, and it's there, and it's healthy in terms of just for the pacing of the match. The vertical suplex turns the tide. Paulie Dangerously, by the way, who has not been mentioned at this point in the match because he's actually not in the camera shot as much as he normally is during this phase of his run. Of course, he tries to stay out of the way now with Roman Reigns on TV. Can't believe he's still on TV. But anyway, Heyman is the manager of the Dangerous Alliance and thereby manager of Arn Anderson by default. There is a crazy spot with about 15 minutes left in the match as Barry Windham launches himself cross-body style over the top rope into the floor, going for lariat, and that leads to a good bit of trouble, and ultimately their knee to the spine, and it's an interesting run, and Heyman is on the old school hard cell phones that are about 20 pounds, or look to be anyway, from 1992. Can't imagine the small phones we have now. Then Anderson breaks the match down into a chin lock. They work over the chin lock for a couple of minutes. Love the fact that there's pacing in the match. Anyway, leg grapevine by Wyndham. Wyndham going at things pretty quickly and efficiently. Wyndham then waits as Anderson comes off the top rope with a double axe handle to the spine and manages to go that way. It's there. It's useful. It's good, and it is what is here. Now we see a tie up there by Heyman. Heyman manages to get a inverted deal, and Spinebuster by Anderson switches things around. He gets the fall in this particular area. We go back to I believe the second fall. I don't think I missed a fall there, but maybe I did. Anyway, we go back to another fall, and they're squaring off here with about 8 minutes left in the program, maybe a little less, and it doesn't necessarily look good or bad as Wyndham comes back with another lariat, which he's known for. Matter of fact, I think the lariat, first time I saw it, other than Stan Hansen, Barry Wyndham is someone I would have seen first because Hansen was already in Japan by this point. Wyndham goes for the Gotch-style pile driver. Can't get Anderson up at first, but finally does plant him just a few seconds later. Match definitely worth going out of your way to see. I love WCW at this time. Might actually be my favorite non-WWF 80s product ever, or might even be my favorite year of a non-88, 89, 90 WWF in history, just in terms of the quality of matches that are on. I'm surprised that this product doesn't continue. Anyway, battle over the figure four by Anderson with being barely able to stand. Wyndham manages to get snapmared over with less than 2 full minutes remaining in the match. Anderson goes to the top rope and tries to do what we would now know as a Vader bomb. Gets caught with the knees in the sternum, and then again we see the Dangerous Alliance do a run-in on Wyndham, beating him down, as in this case it is Barry Wyndham getting kicked at and punched at and poked and prodded at by both Arn Anderson and Steve Austin to close the program. We will be back with more of these tonight. We've also got over 1,200 options, so plenty of stuff for you to check out. Keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Until next time, everybody.